proprietor, president, Deacon Arthur L. Parker, who continues the traditions and values set forth by the past president, Dr. Napoleon Williams. Your announcements for the J.W. Williams Funeral Home Sunday morning program are Deacon Arthur L. Parker, Reverend Isaac H. Owens, Mrs. Glondra Wilkerson Parker, Minister Frankie Harmon, Miss Sandra Johnson, and Deacon Earl Clark, Jr. If we remember those who are gone, then they live again. They are here once more. They smile and speak, just as do living men. So let's give our thoughts to the brace upon this Memorial Day. In spiritual fellowship, let us speak and listen to what they say. For a soldier who died for his country must be known, much that he could tell, and if we caught the message, it might serve us oft and serve us well. So in our memories, let the dead linger often and long. Recollections of that they kind of life that they lived are like a springtime song. May we always remember them with the dedication they gave to serve our country with pride and distinction. And may we always remember them because they gave the ultimate sacrifice. These men, these women, our parents, our brothers, and our sisters they were. But as they left here, they became the brave ones who fought, who stood, and who gave everything that they had. And as we remember them on this Memorial Day, we're thankful that God allowed them to pass our way. This message of remembrance comes from the CEO, President, staff, and management of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home as we pause to remember and celebrate the lives of all servicemen and women who gave their lives for our country and its freedom. We remember them on this Memorial Day weekend for the lives that they gave for our country.
Thank you, and good morning, friends. We come to you this Memorial Day weekend to bring to you announcements, dedications, and songs. We certainly hope that your day may be brighter after listening to our program. The family of the Reverend Jerome Trotman Jr. of Rochelle, Georgia. The family of Miss Annie Ruth Tullis of Americus, Georgia. The family of Miss Emma Jean Hughes Glenn of Cordele, Georgia, would like to thank their many friends for the food, the flowers, the condolences, and all other expressions of sympathy and kindness shown to them during their hours of sorrow and bereavement during the past week. The Reverend Jerome Trotman Jr., age 91, of 565 Peoples Road, Rochelle, Georgia, died Wednesday, May 19, at the High Cotton Homes in Rochelle, Georgia. The funeral service for the Reverend Jerome Trotman Jr., age 91, was held Sunday, May 23rd, graveside at the Snow Hill Cemetery in Pitts, Georgia. His pastor, the Reverend Ernest Weaver, pastor of the Pine City Baptist Church in Rochelle, Georgia, officiated. Survivors include his beloved daughters, Miss Ernestine Toulouse and Mrs. Bernita Carruthers, and her husband, Mr. Sorrel Carruthers, 3 beloved grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren, one devoted brother, Deacon Roosevelt Troutman of Rochelle, Georgia, a host of nieces, nephews, great-nieces, great-nephews, great-great-nieces, and great-great-nephews, and many other relatives and friends survived. The Reverend Jerome Troutman Jr., age 91, of 565 Peoples Road, Rochelle, Georgia. Miss Annie Ruth Tullis, age 79, of 239 Old Dawson Road, Americus, Georgia, died Thursday, May 20th, at the Phoebe Sumter Medical Center in Americus, Georgia. The funeral service for Miss Annie Ruth Tullis, age 79, was held Wednesday, May 26th, graveside at Staley Memorial Gardens in Americus, Georgia. The Reverend George F. Muntz, Jr., pastor of the Whole Truth International Ministry of Americus, Georgia, officiated. Survivors include her loving and devoted children, Mrs. Cassandra Tullis Gibson and her husband, Mr. Arthur Gibson, Mrs. Glenda Tullis Lockett and her husband, Mr. Lawrence Lockett, and Mr. Ronnie Tullis and his wife, Dr. Sharon Tullis, and Miss Kelly Tullis, all of Americus, Georgia. 15 beloved grandchildren, 13 great-grandchildren, her loving and devoted sisters, Miss Mary L. Tullis of Plains, Georgia, Mrs. Gloria Hurley, and Mrs. Lucille Tullis, both of Americus, Georgia, and Mrs. Brenda Battle and her husband, Mr. Jonathan Battle of Plains, Georgia. Her beloved brothers, Mr. John Arthur Hurley and Mr. Charles Hurley, both of Americus, Georgia. Her beloved aunts, Mrs. Thelma Solomon Foster of Americus, Georgia, and Mrs. Lizzie Pearl Laster of Jacksonville, Florida. A host of nieces and nephews, her special cousins, Mrs. Ernestine Robinson and her husband, Mr. Ike Robinson of West Palm Beach, Florida, and Mrs. Nan Blackshear Little of Virginia Beach, Virginia. A host of other relatives and many, many sorrowing friends survive. Miss Annie Ruth Tullis, age 79, of 239 Old Dawson Road, Americus, Georgia. Miss Emma Jean Hughes Glenn, age 71, of 103 South 15th Street, Cordele, Georgia, died Tuesday, May 25th, at her residence in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Miss Emma Jean Hughes Glenn, age 71, was held Saturday, May 29th, graveside at the Bethel Cemetery in Cordele, Georgia. Brother Cleveland Allen III officiated. Survivors include her loving and devoted children, Miss Angela Wilcock of Cordele, Georgia, and Mr. Aaron Jones and his wife, Mrs. Yolanda Jones of Tallahassee, Florida. Her caring grandchildren, Mr. Jamarco Jones, Mr. Jericho Jones and his wife, Mrs. Courtney Jones, Mr. Jacavius Towns, Mr. Aaron Jones Jr., Miss Erin Jones, Miss Aranice Jones, and Miss Aria Jones, and Miss Shalonda Glenn Brown. 12 beloved great-grandchildren, her beloved and devoted sisters, Mrs. Mildred Troop and her husband, Mr. Cleo Troop of Hinesville, Georgia, Judge Gail Sims and Mrs. Deborah Watley and her husband, Mr. Mark Watley of Cordele, Georgia. Her beloved and devoted brothers, Mr. John Hughes and his wife, Mrs. Lynn Hughes, and Brother James Leon Hughes and his wife, Mrs. Yvonne Hughes of Cordele, Georgia. One beloved aunt, Mrs. Marie Harris of Rochester, New York. A host of nieces and nephews, to include a special niece, Miss Jennifer Hughes of Cordele, Georgia. A host of cousins, other relatives, and many, many sorrowing friends, to include her special friend, Miss Leah Rogers and Miss Rosalind Porter, both of Cordele, Georgia. Her beloved nurse, Miss April Thompson of Cordele, Georgia. Survived Miss Emma Jean Hughes Glenn, age 71, 103 South 15th Street, Cordele, Georgia. Again, the family of the Reverend Jerome Troutman Jr. of Rochelle, Georgia. The family of Miss Annie Ruth Tullis of Americus, Georgia. The family of Miss Emma Jean Hughes Glenn of Cordele, Georgia, would like to thank their many friends for all of the many kindnesses shown to them during the hours of sorrow and bereavement during the past week. May God bless each of you is their prayer. The J.W. Williams Funeral Directors serving Cordele and Diana were in charge of each of these arrangements during the past week. And now, it is certainly with the deepest regret that we make the following announcements. Mr. Sanford Floyd, better known as Mickey, age 55, of 709 Mary Street, Americus, Georgia, died Sunday, May 23rd, at the Phoebe Putney Memorial Hospital main campus in Albany, Georgia. Survivors include his loving and devoted wife, Mrs. Dorothy Jean Kitchen Floyd of Americus, Georgia, his beloved children, Mrs. Kanisha Cooper and Miss Shaquan Mike, both of Americus, Georgia, and Miss Shakitha Mike of Warner Robins, Georgia. His beloved grandchildren, his loving and devoted mother, Miss Evelyn Clark Floyd of Americus, Georgia. His beloved father, Mr. Otterly Floyd, and his wife, Mrs. Lorraine Floyd of Americus, Georgia. His beloved and devoted sisters, Mrs. Tammy Floyd Wright and her husband, Mr. Lawrence Wright, Miss Teresa Floyd, Miss Christine Boynton, Mrs. Adrian Ann Millage, all of Americus, Georgia. His beloved brothers, Mr. Robert James Floyd and his wife, Mrs. Tamisha Floyd of Newtonville, New Jersey. Mrs. Claiborne Boynton, Mr. Otha Lee Floyd, Mr. Clayton Burns, all of Americus, Georgia. His beloved aunts and uncles, Miss Mary Claw, Mrs. Annie Ruth Craw, and Miss Loretta Kitchens of Americus, Georgia. Miss LaWanna Ross of Plains, Georgia, and Miss Barbara Best and her husband, Mr. Tony Best of Columbia, South Carolina. A host of nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends survive. Mr. Sanford Floyd, better known as Mickey, age 55, of 709 Mary Street, Americus, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Stanford Floyd, age 55, better known as Mickey, will be held Tuesday, June 1st at 12 noon, graveside at the Eastview Cemetery in Americus, Georgia. Bishop Melvin McCluster, pastor of the Friendship Baptist Church, will officiate. The public walk-up visitation will be Monday, May 31st from 1 until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. Miss Gwendolyn Gail Lassiter Williams, age 57, of 144 West Bailey Street, Leslie, Georgia, died Wednesday, May 26, at the Phoebe Sumter Medical Center in Americus, Georgia. Survivors include her loving and devoted children, Mr. Marquess S. Williams of Newcastle, Indiana, Mr. Michael D. Williams of Atlanta, Georgia, and Miss LaCrystal Gail Williams of Americus, Georgia. Her beloved grandchildren, Michaela, June, Anaya, Michael, Tryan, Drayton, Arianta, Cameron, Cameron, Samaya, and Chandler. One great-grandchild, Nivian. Her beloved and devoted sisters, Mrs. Gussie Jackson and her husband, Mr. Andrew Jackson of Americus, Georgia, Miss Patricia D. Lassiter of Leslie, Georgia, and Miss Carolyn L. Broner and her husband, Mr. James Broner of Albany, Georgia. Her beloved brothers, Mr. James L. Lassiter and his wife, Mrs. Linda Lassiter of Florida, Mr. Leon Lassiter and his wife, Mrs. Cynthia Lassiter of Albany, Georgia, and Mr. Willie C. Lassiter of St. Paul, Minnesota. Her beloved sister-in-law, Mrs. Anna L. Lassiter of Americus, Georgia. Her beloved aunt, Miss Catherine Fletcher of Americus, Georgia, and Miss Essie Mitchell of Flint, Michigan. A host of nieces, nephews, cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends survive. Miss Gwendolyn Gail Lassiter Williams, age 57, of 144 West Bailey Street, Leslie, Georgia. The funeral service for Ms. Gwendolyn Gail Lassiter Williams, age 57, will be held Tuesday, June 1st at 5 p.m. graveside at the Piney Grove No. 3 Baptist Church Cemetery in Lee County, Georgia. Her pastor, the Reverend Glenn M. Bryant Sr., pastor of the County Line Memorial Baptist Church, will officiate. The public walk-up viewing will be Monday, May 31st, from 1 until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. Mrs. Prince Ella McCormick Youngblood, age 73, of 049 Cemetery Road, Rochelle, Georgia, died Tuesday, May 25th, 2021, at her residence in Rochelle, Georgia. Survivors include her loving and devoted husband, Mr. Willie Youngblood Sr. of Rochelle, Georgia, her loving and devoted children, Mr. Willie B. Youngblood Jr. and his wife, Mrs. Sandra Youngblood of Rochelle, Georgia, Mr. Calvin Youngblood and his wife, Mrs. Kathy Youngblood of Pitts, Georgia, Miss Teresa M. Alexander and her husband, Mr. Tony Alexander of Cordele, Georgia, her loving and devoted grandchildren, Miss Brittany Alexander, Mr. Tony Alexander Jr., Miss Richard Harris and her husband, Mr. Kendall Harris, Mrs. Keandra Ferguson, Mrs. Alam Youngblood, Mr. Jared Lindsay, Miss Chantel Leggett, Miss Kanisha Grace, and her husband, Mr. Victor Grace, Mr. Calvin Youngblood and his wife, Mrs. Portia Youngblood, Mr. Roderick Grace, Mrs. Tony Smith, and her husband, Mr. Antonio Smith. 14 beloved great-grandchildren, one beloved sister, Mrs. Lily Mae Bradley of Orlando, Florida. 4 beloved brothers, Mr. Jeremiah McComrick and his wife, Mrs. Ida McComrick, Mr. Nehemiah McComrick and his wife, Mrs. Rosa McComrick, both of Rochelle, Georgia, Mr. David McComrick of Atlanta, Georgia, and Mr. Cleophas McComrick of Oglethorpe, Georgia. A host of aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, a very special friend, Miss Gloria Hunt, and many other relatives, and many sorrowing friends survive. Mrs. Prince Ella McComrick Youngblood, age 73, of 049 Cemetery Road, Rochelle, Georgia. The funeral service for Mrs. Prince Ella McComrick Youngblood, age 73, will be held Wednesday, June 2nd at 11 a.m. graveside at the Springfield Baptist Church Cemetery in Abbeville, Georgia. The pastor, Reverend Henry Hall, will officiate. The public walk-up visitation will be Tuesday, June 1st, from 1 until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. Mr. George Arthur Sims Jr., age 52, of 508 Pineview Drive, Americus, Georgia, died Friday, May 28th, at the Phoebe Sumter Medical Center in Americus, Georgia. Survivors include his loving and devoted wife, Mrs. Angela M. Sims of Americus, Georgia, his loving and devoted children, Mrs. Angela Sims and Mrs. Brittany Sims, both of Americus, Georgia, a beloved stepson, Mr. Christopher Adam Layfield of Richmond Hill, Georgia. 3 beloved grandchildren, the beloved father, Mr. George A. Sims Sr. of Plains, Georgia. His devoted sisters, Mrs. Leanne Sims of Plains, Georgia, Mrs. Diane Ross and her husband, Mr. Thomas Ross, and Mrs. Patricia Tukes and her husband, Mr. Raymond Tukes of Americus, Georgia. Mrs. Miriam Laster of Atlanta, Georgia, a beloved brother, Mr. Kelvin Sims of Plains, Georgia, his beloved aunt and uncles, Mr. Sam Sims and Mr. Eugene Sims, both of Americus, Georgia, and Mrs. Annie O. Durham of Plains, Georgia. A host of nieces and nephews, many cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends survive. Mr. George Arthur Sims Jr., age 52, of 508 Pineview Drive, Americus, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. George Arthur Sims Jr., age 52, will be held Wednesday, June 2nd at 4 p.m. graveside at the Poplar Springs Cemetery in Preston, Georgia. The Reverend George F. Muntz Jr., pastor of the Whole Truth International Ministry of Americus, Georgia, will officiate. The public walk-up visitation will be Tuesday, June 1st from 1 until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. Mr. Javon DeQuay Campbell, age 20, better known as Four-Way Little Man, of 305 North 11th Street, Cordele, Georgia, died Thursday, May 27th of injuries sustained in an automobile accident. Survivors include his loving and devoted mother, Mrs. Tanika Y. Johnson, and her fiancé, Mr. Kelridge Glenn of Cordele, Georgia. His beloved and caring brothers, Mr. Jaquavis S. Campbell, Mr. Jamaria D. Chambliss, and Mr. Jordan Glenn, all of Cordele, Georgia. His beloved grandmother, Mrs. Debbie Walker Clark, and her husband, Mr. Charles Clark, of Cordele, Georgia. His beloved grandfather, Deacon Alonzo Johnson, and his wife, Mrs. Diane Johnson of Cordele, Georgia. His beloved great-grandmother, Mrs. Helen R. Davis of Cordele, Georgia. One beloved aunt, Miss Brandy Johnson of Cordele, Georgia. His beloved uncles, Mr. Alonzo Johnson, Mr. Jonathan Johnson, Mr. Courtney Johnson, and Mr. Adrian Clark, all of Cordele, Georgia. A host of great aunts, great uncles, many cousins, other relatives, and many sorrowing friends, to include his special friends, Mr. Cameron Davis, Mr. Sir Gabriel Patrick, Mr. Zamaria Jackson, and Mr. Zaquavian Harneman, survived Mr. Javon DeQuan Campbell, age 20, of 305 North 11th Street, Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Jaquan DeQuan Campbell, age 20, better known as Four-Way Little Man, will be announced at a later date pending the completion of the arrangements. The J.W. Williams funeral directors serving Cordele and Vienna are in charge of each of these arrangements during this week. Friends, that conclude our funeral notices for this morning. And as always, we do remind you concerning our pre-funeral arrangements planning available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home, with packages available with a single pay, a 3-year pay, a 5-year pay, and a 10-year pay. So please stop by and talk with us concerning your pre-funeral arrangements needs available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. And also whole life insurance is available at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. And now for announcements. And we do apologize about our station difficulties this morning, so do bear with us. The new Poplar Springs Baptist Church of Byronville, Georgia, invites everyone to join them Sunday today at 9:45 a.m. via conference call. You may dial 253-993-3655 3761 for worship service. Again, 253-993-3761. The New Poplar Springs Baptist Church of Byronville, Georgia, invites everyone to join them this morning at 9:45 a.m. via conference call 253-993-3761. The Reverend Johnny Dean, pastor, New Poplar Springs Baptist Church of Byronville, Georgia. The Spring Hill Baptist Church of Tibbettville, Georgia, invites everyone to worship with them, to drive up and worship each first and third Sundays at 11 a.m. Sister Mary Ann Lewis, Church Secretary, Deacon Sam Anderson, Chairman of Deacons, and the Reverend Choice Cobb Sr., Pastor. Christ Chapel, Unadilla, Georgia, will sponsor a good giveaway Friday, June 4th from 11 a.m. until Christ Chapel, Unadilla weekly food pantry is open every Wednesday from 3 until 6 p.m. You're invited to worship with the Greater Morris Tabernacle Baptist Church. Conference call scheduled as follows: Sunday morning worship at 9 a.m., Tuesday midday prayer conference at 12 noon, Thursday prayer meeting and Bible study at 6 p.m. The call-in number for the conference call is 229-329-7611. Again, 229-329-7611. The Greater Morris Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church conference call today, Sunday morning worship at 9 a.m. via conference call or Facebook, or you may worship on the grounds of the church at 9 a.m. this morning. Everyone is invited. Mother Lucille Shazer, Church Mother, Deacon Tommy Ford Jr., Vice Chairman of Deacons, Deacon Kenneth Smith, Program Chairman, and Dr. K.M. Williams, Pastor. The Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church invites everyone to pull up and praise each Sunday at 10 a.m. Service is located at 1818 U.S. Highway 41 North, Cordele, Georgia. Emmanuel Missionary Baptist Church invites everyone to pull up and praise each Sunday at 10 a.m., located at 1818 U.S. Highway 41 North, Cordele, Georgia, across from the Farmers Market. The Reverend Gregory Williams, pastor. St. King Baptist Church invites everyone to worship with them each first and third Sundays at 8 a.m. for our prayer worship service at 9 a.m., Sunday school at 10:15 a.m. The Reverend Woody C. Barnum, pastor. The Reverend Joyce Daniels, co-pastor. Mount Zion First African Baptist Church conference call scheduled Sunday morning at 10 a.m., prayer Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 noon. Bible study each Wednesday at 5 p.m. The conference call number is 515-604-9765. Assets code 288180. Again, 515-604-9765. Asset code 288180. Deacon Joe Wedges, Chairman of Deacons, Dr. Dan James III, Pastor. The Gethsemane Baptist Church outdoor worship service on the grounds of the Gethsemane Baptist Church Each Sunday at 10:30 a.m., everyone is asked to wear a mask, and everyone is invited to attend. Mother Mary Butler, Church Mother, Deacon Johnny Wilson, Chairman of Deacons, and the Reverend Cecil Strawder is pastor. A pre-Father's Day gospel singing will be held Saturday, June 19 at 4 p.m. on the lawn of 302 West 16th Avenue, Cordele, Georgia, next to Robinson Barber Shop. Performance by the Gospel Travelers of Oakfield, Georgia, Chosen of Albany, Georgia, Truly Blessed, all of Albany, Georgia, and Brother Norris Mathis. Everyone is invited to attend. The M.D. White's Medical Institute, 401 North 15th Street, Cordele, Georgia, the former A.S. Clark School, will be conducting both Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccination in the cafeteria room Tuesday, June 1st through Thursday, June 3rd from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. for ages 12 and over. There will be gifting for the first 100 children aged 12 to 17 of $10 for their first shot. One adult age 18 and up who gets vaccinated at our facility during the month of June will get a cash reward of $1,000. Dr. Matthew W. White is medical doctor. Again, the M.D. White's Medical Institute will be conducting both the Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccination in the cafeteria room Tuesday, June 1st through Thursday, June 3rd. Dr. Matthew D. White is. Friends, that conclude our announcements for this morning, and we pray that you would govern yourselves accordingly. And now for dedications. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following: in loving memory of Mrs. Emma Brinson, who would have celebrated her birthday May 25th, dedication requested by her beloved daughter, Mrs. Fanny Montfrey, and the entire Brinson family, gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of Mrs. Leola Holton, who departed this life May 26, 2004, dedication requested by the entire family, gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of Mr. Leonard Patrick, better known as Lil Man, who would have celebrated his birthday during the month, gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of Mrs. Gwendolyn Jones, who would have celebrated her birthday May 28th, dedication requested by the Montford and Jones family, gone but not forgotten. In loving memory of Mr. Jake Fletcher Jr., who would have celebrated his birthday May 31st, dedication requested by his beloved mother, Mother Minnie Fletcher, and the entire family, gone but not forgotten. Our first selection this morning is dedicated to the following: Mr. Roscoe Applin and family, Mr. and Mrs. Willie Frank Collier and family, Mr. Gus Williams and family, Miss Marion Felton and family, Deacon Lenny Hagerbrook and family, Miss Sharon Chambliss and family, Mrs. Frances Chambliss and family, Miss Verdell Butts, James Grant and family, Mrs. Curtina Grant and family, Miss Debbie Reed and family, Mrs. Stephanie Grant and family, Mother Grace Patrick and family, Mr. and Mrs. Jimmy Passmore and family, Mrs. Gladys Williams and family, Mr. and Mrs. Keith Bryan and family, Miss Denise Walker and family, Mr. Eddie Hester and family, Pineview, Georgia, Mr. and Mrs. Charles Curry and family, Mr. and Mrs. Joshua Woodson and family, Mr. Leonard Morgan and family, Mrs. Bernice Smith and family, Deacon and Mrs. Sammy McGill and family, Chairman of the Board of Deacons of the Mount Moriah Baptist Church, Warwick, Georgia. Mr. Willie Shallow and family, Deacon and Mrs. Charles Glenn and family, Deacon and Mrs. Charlie Westbrook and family, the family of the late Mother Cornelia Jackson, Mr. and Mrs. Dwight Tillman and family, Miss Sue James and family, Miss Joanne Atkins and family, Miss Faustine Carruthers and family, Miss Linda Wilson and family, Miss Donna Cobb and family, Pastor Jimmy Felton and the entire Felton family, Mrs. B.J. Ezel and family, and the staff at BJ's Diner, Mr. and Mrs. James Palmer and family, Mother Lucille Shazer, church mother of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church, age 108. Yes, age 108. Deacon and Mrs. Willie Shivers and family, Miss Kara Brooks and family, the Reverend and Mrs. Woody Barnum and family, Miss Marion Golfin and family, Mr. and Mrs. Charlie Clark and family, Deacon Michael Morgan and family, Deacon Henry King of the Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church, Mr. and Mrs. Alonzo Flood and family, Mr. and Mrs. Lester C. Williams and family, Deacon and Mrs. Otis Blanks and family, Mr. Carl Bryan and family, Mr. and Mrs. James Russell Brunell and family, Mrs. Martha Cutts and family, Mrs. Minister Emma Love Jackson and family, Mrs. Janice Jones and family, Mr. Willie Frank Hayes and family, Mrs. Jennifer Jefferson and families, Betty Taylor and families, Betty Oliver and families, Diane McClendon and family, Mrs. Maggie Jackson and families, Mary Hill and family, Mrs. Loretta Cole and families, Geraldine Harvey and family, Mrs. Willie Bell Lawson and family, Deacon and Mrs. Samuel Mills and family of Pineview, Georgia, the family of Deacon Rufus Hoggerbrook, Mrs. Lula Bell Hill and family, Deacon and Mrs. Johnny C. Hillman and family, Mrs. Ruby Kitchen and family, Deacon and Mrs. Bobby James and family, Mrs. Priscilla Thomas and family, Miss Helen Ray and family, Mr. and Mrs. Jesse Walker and family, Mr. Edward Johnson and family, Mrs. Trudy Mae Johnson and family, Deacon Curtis Lucas Jr. and family, Mrs. Carrie Bell Woodson and family, Mrs. Clara Graham and family, Mrs. Angeline Jones and family, Miss Deacon James Beal and family, Mrs. Rubenell Anderson and family, Mrs. Charlie Ray, the family of the late Brother Woodrow Bivens, Mr. Kenneth Staley and family, the Reverend and Mrs. Eddie Gant and family of Oakfield, Georgia, Mr. and Mrs. Bernard Williams and family, Mrs. Annie Curry and family, Mr. Nathaniel Curry and family, Deacon and Mrs. Charles Harris Sr. and family, Mr. Willie Holmes and family, Mrs. Pearlie Griggs and family, Mr. Willie Jackson and family, Mr. Scotty Anderson and family, Mrs. Jackie Ridley and family, Mr. Robert Harvey and family, Mr. Sean Wood and family, Mr. Carl Ward and family, Apostle and Mrs. Morris Jones and family, Dr. and Mrs. Michael Overstreet and family, Mr. and Mrs. Tim Lockett and family, Mr. and Mrs. Avery Hillman and family, the family of the late Deacon Fred Teal. Our first selection for this morning.
You did just for me. What's the least I could do? Oh every fast minute, in every hour of the day, in every situation, in every bit of attention I pay, I'm fully committed to your will, to your way. I make the sacrifice. Do what you ask of me. My love forever.
It is certainly with the deepest regret that we make the following announcements. Mr. Sanford Floyd, better known as Mickey, age 55, of 709 Mary Street, Americus, Georgia, died Sunday, May 23rd at the Phoebe Putney Memorial Hospital main campus in Albany, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Stanford Floyd, better known as Mickey, age 55, will be held Tuesday, June 1st at 12 noon, graveside at the Eastview Cemetery in Americus, Georgia. Bishop Melvin McCluster, pastor of the Friendship Baptist Church, will officiate. The public walk-up visitation will be Monday, May 31st from 1 until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. Miss Gwendolyn Gail Lassiter Williams, age 57, of 144 West Bailey Street, Leslie, Georgia, died Wednesday, May 26 at the Phoebe Sumter Medical Center in Americus, Georgia. The funeral service for Miss Gwendolyn Gail Lassiter Williams, age 57, will be held Tuesday, June 1st at 5 p.m. graveside at the Piney Grove No. 3 Baptist Church Cemetery in Lee County, Georgia. Her pastor, the Reverend Glenn M. Bryant Sr., pastor of the County Line Memorial Baptist Church, will officiate. The public walk-up visitation will be Monday, May 31st from 1 until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. Mrs. Prince Ella McComrick Youngblood, age 73, of 049 Cemetery Road, Rochelle, Georgia, died Tuesday, May 25th, 2021 at her residence in Rochelle, Georgia. The funeral service for Mrs. Prince Ella McComrick Youngblood, age 73, will be held Wednesday, June 2nd at 11 a.m. graveside at the Springfield Baptist Church Cemetery in Abbeville, Georgia. The pastor, Reverend Henry Hill, will officiate. The public walk-up visitation will be Tuesday, June 1st from 1 until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. Mr. George Arthur Sims, Jr., age 52, of 508 Pineview Drive, Americus, Georgia, died Friday, May 28th at the Phoebe Sumter Medical Center in Americus, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. George Arthur Sims Jr., age 52, will be held Wednesday, June 2nd at 4 p.m. graveside at the Poplar Springs Cemetery in Preston, Georgia. The Reverend George Frank Muntz Jr., pastor of the Whole Truth International Ministry, Americus, Georgia, will officiate. The public walk-up visitation will be Tuesday, June 1st from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home. Mr. Javon DeQuan Campbell, age 20, better known as Four-Way Little Man, of 305 North 11th Street, Cordele, Georgia, died Thursday, May 27th, of injuries sustained in an automobile accident in Cordele, Georgia. The funeral service for Mr. Javon DeQuan Campbell, better known as Four-Way Little Man, age 20, will be announced at a later date, pending the completion of the arrangements. The J.W. Williams funeral directors serving Cordele and Vienna are in charge of each of these arrangements during this week. Our next and final selection for this morning is dedicated to the bereaved families whose loved ones were laid to rest during the past week. The family of the Reverend Jerome Trotman Jr. of Rochelle, Georgia. The family of Miss Annie Ruth Tullis of Americus, Georgia. The family of Miss Emma Jean Hughes Glenn of Cordele, Georgia. This selection is dedicated to the bereaved families whose loved ones will be laid to rest during this week. The family of Mr. Sanford Floyd, better known as Mickey, of Americus, Georgia. The family of Miss Gwendolyn Gail Lassiter Williams of Leslie, Georgia. The family of Mrs. Prince Ella McComrick Youngblood of Rochelle, Georgia. The family of Mr. George Arthur Sims Jr. of Americus, Georgia. The family of Mr. Javon DeQuan Campbell, better known as Four-Way Little Man, age 20, of Cordele, Georgia. This selection is dedicated to all of the sick and shut-in, to all patients in the local and surrounding hospitals, nursing homes, and rehabilitation centers, to our beloved ministers and their devoted family members, to all retired educators, to the men and women serving in our armed forces, both stateside and abroad, to all veterans, and to everyone who listens to our program on each Sunday morning. It's a pleasure for us to bring it to you. Our program goes out in memory of our past president, Dr. Napoleon Williams, goes out to my wife, Mrs. Calandra Wilkerson Parker, goes out to my son, Jai Wilkerson Parker, who have completed the 8th grade and now headed to high school. This selection goes out to my mother-in-law, Mrs. Billy Ann Hall, and family. Goes out to my brother, retired Chief Master Sergeant Norman F. Dexter, his wife, Dr. Gwendolyn Maxine Dexter, Vienna, Georgia. This selection goes out to my sister, Miss Mattie Mae Johnson, better known as Sister Girl, and to Mrs. Patsy Jackson and her husband, Mr. Jim Jackson of Cordele, Georgia. This selection goes out to my nephew, Deacon Kenneth Smith, Program Chairman of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church. Again, invite you to worship today on the grounds of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Baptist Church at 9 a.m. This selection goes out to our pastor, Dr. Kenneth M. Williams, pastor of the Greater Morris Tabernacle Baptist Church and moderator of the Gum Creek Missionary Baptist Association. Goes out to Deacon Tommy Ford and family, and Mother Lucille Shazer, again, age 108. This selection goes out especially to Mr. Cleveland R. Lemon, oldest staff member of the J.W. Williams Funeral Home, and who was with us and sat with us on yesterday, and we thank him for his presence. This selection goes out to my neighbor, Mother Theron Jones and family, and Entire Jones and Talbot family. Mrs. Dorothy Talbot and family. Goes out to Mr. Johnny Talbot and Mrs. Juanita Talbot and family. Mother Easter Byram and family. Miss Willie Mae Crapp and family. Miss Mary Trahan and family. Mrs. Carol Dempsey and family. Mother Ida Bell Patrick and family. Mrs. Willie Mae Leary and family of Hatley, Georgia, and the entire Leary and Carter family. Miss Lucille Hillman and family of Ashburn, Georgia. Miss Gracie Reese and family. Mr. and Mrs. Johnny Perry and family of Vienna, Georgia. Goes out to our beloved Miss Easter May Sanders and family. And again, to each and every one of you, and to all our 2001 graduates, 2021 graduates throughout our area there. We said congratulations and God bless you. Goes out especially to my great nephew, MJ, who graduated from the Chris County High School on this past Friday night. Congratulations, MJ, and continue to do well. God bless you.
Come on, put your hands together all over the place. I need to know we got any praisers tonight in the room. Did you come to have a good time tonight? Did you come to give God the glory? Somebody make some noise. Oh, y'all too quiet. I said somebody scream. Do we have any champions in the room? If you're a champion, lift up your hand like this.
Yes, I'm going to walk. Oh, that will keep my way. Oh, child.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We hope you've enjoyed our program. Tune in again on next Sunday morning.
Well,
In your time of need, contact the competent, capable, and dependable staff at the J.W. Williams Funeral Home.
some of these days.